All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Gabriel Rucker. I am the CEO and co founder for Founding Titans, and I'm also the host for the Tales from the Pantheon series that we're doing here. Essentially, this series is really about authentic stories and information for entrepreneurs, community builders, ecosystem builders. Some brief, quick overview information for the company. So, Founding Titans is a community focused relationship optimization platform. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs and communities 10x their network sizes and engagement. And one of the biggest ways that we're doing that with keeping people engaged is presenting content like this to you guys. And so I actually have one of my co-founders here, Brandy Beasley, and she's going to be kind of in the background working on things, but I wanted to give her a quick introduction as well.
Hi, y'all. I'm Brandy. I'm the COO. And like you said, I'll be in the background. Feel free to drop questions and we'll capture all of those and address those towards the end. All right. Thanks for being here.
All right, perfect. And thank you, Brandy. And really quick for us, I want to be able to show the link for Founding Titans. So we're running pre-orders right now for our platform for both entrepreneurs, communities, enterprises, all of that. And so feel free to jump onto our website, check us out, see what we're about. But today is not just about us. Today is about learning from an experienced founder turned funder. And so we're going to be introducing my good friend, Mehron here. All right.
Thanks, Gabriel. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for having, taking the time out and jumping on with me today, man. I really appreciate it. I know you've been bouncing around. I know you were just in Dubai, right?
I was. Yeah, I go there quite often. My family lives in Dubai, so I try to go back and forth. I love it. I just got back a few days ago.
Yeah, no, speaking of family and all of those good things, man, like tell us a little bit more about you, your background, like who you are.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California in SoCal. I came to San Francisco 3 years ago. Career was in finance, started off in banking. From there, went to work at a premier fund of funds. We had around 50 billion invested across all asset classes. We did private equity, private credit, hedge funds, and venture. A lot of my exposure was actually in venture, so it's a fortunate way to kind of kickstart what I'm passionate about and things in my career. And then from there, I decided to become a founder. I was the founder of Qualtic Ventures. We were a syndicate in Silicon Valley, became oversubscribed on all of our deals. Very fortunate there. Ended up doing things. Our portfolio companies had clients such as Disney, eBay, Paramount, Balmain, FIS, MasterCard, and some more, which was just a really great experience. Then I started my second company. It was a capital raise business, specializing in helping startups raise capital, expanded quickly. We were in 4 countries within our first 6 months, ended up having a successful exit, selling that business, and then coming over to the venture side. Now I lead the investment team at 7BC, primarily focusing on B2B software, specializing in workflow automation, usually 100,000 to 500,000 of MRR, so 1.2 to 6 million of ARR. We've gone outside that as well. We have 4 funds, but that's primarily what we invest in.
Okay. No, perfect, man. Really appreciate some of the quick background and information. And let's jump in everything. So really want to dive more into your founder story and kind of how everything got started there. So, take us back to your earliest entrepreneurial venture, right? So, what sparked that idea and, what made you actually take the leap into, becoming a founder, entrepreneur, like just getting into business in general?
Well, the earliest one, I don't know if that counts. As one of my best friends at the time, I was 16. One of my best friends at the time, we started a social media marketing agency for luxury real estate. And then when we were 17, we tried to make almost a copycat of BuzzFeed, if you will, but only focused on one niche. And that ended up turning into this promotional agency for SoundCloud rappers. It was just a random time. So I don't know if I really count those, but my first more legit ones, I guess. We can talk about Qualtic. I knew I wanted to go into venture when I was in college, actually. But the thing about venture is the exit options are so limited in comparison to, say, banking, where you can, if it's not for you, you're really just maybe joining a startup, starting your own thing, going to a different fund. It's quite limited, right? So I thought, why don't I go get some other experience and figure out, is this the asset class that I want to be in? Hence, when I went to work at Hall Capital Partners, investing across all asset classes. And that was really good because then I realized, venture is actually the one for me. And then when Qualitic was born, I thought to myself, you know what, I want to be a VC. I may as well just do it the best I can. And instead of being an analyst somewhere, I may as well figure out the legals, the deal sourcing, to the diligence, to the fundraising piece, you name it. And I had, support here in the Valley. I met some pretty cool individuals, and they said, why not just get it started? I just turned 22 when I started Qualitic Ventures, and I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. But it's always, I got some advice years ago where there's never gonna be a perfect time. Just do it now. And hence the genesis of Qualitic. So that started off, and that was my first time technically being a founder, I guess, although it was a syndicate, but learned a lot about just raising money, managing individuals, running a business. And then my second company really, took off. So I was happy about that. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was switching the chat on the other screen, and I had to make sure that I had the mute on. But what's it called for? So you exited that one of your companies as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got the second business. So the first company, Qualitic is a syndicate, right? So we're fully deployed, just waiting to see how those portfolio companies turn out, and obviously we're wishing for the best. But exited the second business fully. Yeah.
Nice. So, it sounds like you got a lot of lessons from the trenches, right? So, what was one of the toughest moments within your founder journey, and, how did you push through that?
That's a great question. Everyone always talks about cash flow problems, right? Like you hear the classic story all the time, which, I was, 1 week away from missing payroll, or I couldn't pay for this. My rent was coming up. So I'll share one a little bit differently. I think by nature, I'm an optimist, and I love to see the best in people. But the reality is, when there's money in the line, people will change. I remember one time I was supposed to get a hefty sum of money coming into the business off of a business deal. I can't share too many details about this one, but what I will say is, at the last second, the person that I was partnered with went behind my back and tried to continue the deal going, and then they get paid, and I wouldn't even know about it. And that, I think, was just difficult, more from a mental perspective, to figure out what to do in this instance. It wasn't, I would say, like emotionally draining or anything, because I wasn't emotionally tied to the deal. But what was difficult about it was how to navigate. I thought maybe the first course of action is to go directly to the person and say, hey, what's going on, right? Because I found out from a third party. I thought maybe that's the best course of action, to figure out, what's going on and kind of confront it one-on-one. But, then you end up in a situation where maybe you're getting gaslit, or you might end up in a worse situation where you don't want to enter conflict. It really just depends on the individual, depends on your specific circumstance. So what I ended up finding out was how to use leverage. That individual, I'm not going to say any names, I know wants ownership in a particular company. And what that person doesn't know is that CEO that they want ownership in wants me on the board of their company. So he just doesn't know that. So I call up the CEO and I say, hey, just so you know, this is currently what's going on. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of devise a game plan of what to do here. And he goes, Mehron, since I've known you, you've always been great, and I trust you. I know this guy too, but not to the extent that I know you. How do you want to proceed? I go, if he's not going to be the best value add for your company in the world, maybe we should think about, did you want to give him ownership or not? And he was the one that said maybe not. So he called him up and said, I'm going to block giving you any ownership, and I'm not going to let you invest in the business, or I won't make you a board of advisor unless you open up this pathway and, kind of not screw over Mehron here. And that's when he found out, oh my God, I want that more than I want to just take all the money from Mehron's deal. And he ended up just coming to me. So he's calling me for the next week or so. And, I'm busy and I'm taking some of the calls, but I acted like everything was all good. So the difficult part of that was really just navigating the best course of action on the situation. A lot of times for founders, the exact same thing. Your very first immediate thought might just be a knee-jerk reaction, and that may not be the best way to go about it. Because if I went the first approach, maybe it would have worked, and maybe it would have got the money, but I don't think that individual would have understood the true power or reputational risk that can come from somebody else. Now I don't think he'd ever do that again, not just to me, but to somebody else.
Yeah, no, ethics in business, I think, is extremely important, and like really figuring out how to navigate a lot of those, pitfalls. I think every entrepreneur will have the opportunity to get screwed over. And I say opportunity because it really is like your mindset on how you choose to kind of operate and, show your true colors within those situations. But no, I think, I can name at least 5 of them off the top of my head right now for just situations. And it really kind of proves the resiliency for, I think, a lot of founders too. And how are you able to, adapt to this playing field as well.
Absolutely. I agree. I think things are supposed to get hard. They're not always supposed to be sunshine and roses. Some people will talk about resilience when times are great in terms of competition. I don't know if this is going to make any sense, but when the market's booming and there's 20 incumbents that come into your space, people say, oh my God, you might be such a great founder because you've done well. The reality is everyone kind of does well during those times. Some might just do better than others. The real true test is when things are negative, and who comes out of those and who really survives.
No, 100%. Like being able to kind of see some of those things coming, I think is also a really big asset to a lot of founders, and I think why a lot of people succeed. Even I was looking at something about Mark Cuban recently, right? I mean, he attributes most of his success to luck, right? Like you just right place, right time. But It also comes down to a lot of the execution. Like, okay, you're given this opportunity, like you being given this versus another entrepreneur, like, what are you going to do with this, right? And I think that's what makes, the rich versus the wealthy, the right entrepreneurs versus the wrong people, and really what a lot of even VCs are kind of looking at and like the deal flow that they want to back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, that kind of flows into, my next question in regard to, how you kind of made the shift from, being an operator to, I guess moving into that venture mindset. So, how did it was time to make the transition? And then what is the mindset shift that was required on your end to make that possible?
Yeah, for me, as I mentioned earlier, I knew I was going to do venture for years. It was really just the perfect blend of everything that I love and I'm passionate about. And in my opinion, those around me, I'm great at. I want to say my superpower is people, but I love being intellectually stimulated, and I get to work with the most brilliant minds and the most innovative and passionate minds that want to change the world in some way or bring something new to the way we view life, the way businesses operate. The list goes on and on and on. That to me is really exciting. I get to have an exceptional network where I can bring people together, and that's really cool. And then on top of that, I'm really passionate about investments, how money works, how one thing affects another. And so it's really just a great mix of finance, people, innovation. And it was that perfect blend. So I knew venture is what I wanted to do. In terms of the timing aspect, really a big reason why I started my second business was when I had Qualtic and I was sourcing for deal flow, I was raising money, and I thought, I just can't provide great value to these founders. And what am I supposed to do with these small check sizes, just putting it in? But am I really in the right position to give advice? I'm early on in my career. I haven't experienced a crazy amount of some of my counterparts that are maybe 20, 30 years deep. Yeah. What do founders need? And I realized that these founders have incredible teams, for the most part, incredible teams, great products. And what they just fail to do, why most of these startups fail, is fundraising. Yeah. They just aren't able to bridge that gap. Maybe their product is superior to a competitor, but the competitor is just way better at fundraising, right? Or have better contacts, so have you. So I figured, okay, fundraising is just a game, and it's something that I've naturally become quite good at when it came to assisting startups. I was just doing it for a few friends of mine, introducing them to different VCs. And so I started this as my second company to really hone in on that craft, and just became really good at deal structuring, storytelling, building the narrative, how to speak to investors, how to shape your materials. And that became my value add to founders. I'm not a product guy, as relatively intelligent, but these engineers, especially here in the Valley, I think they take the cake on that one, above myself. But I became really good as the funding individual, and that's where my value add was. So when that happened, that second company, I wasn't passionate about it. It was really just, I saw an opportunity in the market. We made great money. I was able to help out people where I could, and I became really good at what I wanted to do, was be a value add to founders. So that was more of just a natural progression where I said, I don't want to rush things and jump into venture. When I'm in there, I want to be able to provide value to founders. And that was my way of doing that. So as I built a reputation in the Valley, we were closing deals, people were getting to know me, I started to get poached, and there's a few funds, 7VC being included, looking to bring me on to their team. And then the mindset shift really was, I had to learn to become more patient. When I think about it, as a founder, things just move 100 times quicker.
Yeah.
You're on the next deal. You're iterating your product. You're doing your service. Your customers doing this. Your customers doing that. For me, the money also just came much faster. We closed deals pretty quickly. We had a lot of velocity, very, very quickly scaled. And so you start to get used to that. And then on the investor side, it's very interesting. You invest in a founder and it takes so many years to exit your position, or you're raising a fund and that takes time to actually close. Things just move much slower. A lot of my VC friends and I, we make this joke that we don't know if we're doing well. We were working for like a year and we just like nothing's really happened, right? Like maybe we've made some investments, maybe some things have gone south, but has anything really changed? Our portfolio hasn't, made a difference. No one's really done an additional round. They're still burning through cash. I'm talking to founders here and there. I'm taking meetings, but has anything really materialized? And it's that patience aspect is just interesting. Fortunately for me, I'm part of a fund that's been established for a long period of time. But we just had a major exit happen 2 weeks ago, and we've had a handful of exits since my time at the firm from previous funds. And for me, that's really fortunate to at least feel like, okay, something's happening. And these are the realizations, and you can see what comes back, which is really great. But that's the mindset shift. Really, I think is just patience.
No, 100%. I mean, even I think that's one of the key things that makes a really great operator, just in general, but also a really great like venture capitalist or investor, right? Like it does take a lot of time. Like, I mean, we might not see returns for 10 years depending on what stage we're investing in, right? I mean, I've got equity in probably about like 10 companies right now, and I'm like, yeah, if one of these hits, it's going to be really great, but like am I going to see any of that probably in the next 5-6 years? Nah. Like I already know that right off the bat. And it's just like still keeping that connection with those founders and those operators. And you also brought up a really good point earlier as well for, you needed to be really great at fundraising for your company. And I think a lot of people don't realize the same way that there are really great managers and there are really great leaders, but it's really difficult or, seldomly transparent that people are both. And that's the same thing with, they're really great founders, they're really great fundraisers, and it's a really unique skill to be both in those aspects as well. And those are the people that, really shine or really do the best, I think, are really within that bucket. And I mean, you're a testament to that, with everything that you've done. So, appreciate all of the wisdom and connection that you've given me as well, over the course of our friendship. But
thanks, man. No, to be honest, I appreciate the kind words, but none of this happens without you. None of this happens with people around me. I always say, I'm never the smartest guy in the room, nor do I want to be. I think that's just a cliche saying at this point, but it's the support from everyone else. I get to help you wherever I can. And, you always bring it back, vice versa. That love and support from people around you is, I think, what makes people special. So any recognition or anything that happens, take portfolio companies, for example, right? We recently made an investment into a company by the name of Sprouts just a few weeks ago. The company is, no bias, doing fantastic. I feel really good and confident about getting in where we got in. And their round is 80% committed now. And I'm, reaching out to VC friends of mine because I'm confident in the deal and saying, hey, do you want to co-invest with me on this one? Mm-hmm. And, there's a pool of individuals that may look at it or may speak with the founder just because the metrics are great. But I would say a handful of them are taking it because of the respect and relationship we have with one another. Now that might make me look like a great VC. It's, oh my God, Mehron can pick up the phone and call virtually anybody and they'll take a meeting. But that's just everybody else making me look good. You know what I mean? So if it's everyone else that makes this whole thing special and makes this whole thing work. Success is never built alone. We say at our firm internally that it takes a village to raise a startup.
Yeah.
That we care so much about our networks.
No, I mean, 100%. I mean, even like with the amount of time, effort, and persistence that it takes to build and also just maintain your network. I mean, that's what we're really emphasizing and trying to build with Founding Titans is like literally that mantra, that mindset for, entrepreneurs. But I mean, the testament alone to like, that proves that everything that you're doing is working really well, or at least most things, right? I mean, none of us are perfect in it, but like, it's that little extra dash of clout that you can kind of use sometimes in like business deals and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and call it my buddy.
It is. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've definitely flexed that card a little bit. I'll be honest, but I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it because some people like to name drop. It's not really my biggest thing to hop in a conversation and say I know XYZ, I know this and that. So when I do name drop, I can make that call, and that's going to deliver. So I like that. I feel I can always say, hey, I can call the CEO of Founding Titans, my guy Gabe, and Gabe will take that call and Gabe will take the meeting. So
any meeting that you send over to me, I'll take. I don't care who it is. Like, it's just like that relationship that we've built, like, amongst everything. But I mean, it's the same vein, with a lot of people that I speak with, of I sent over an LP to one of you guys' events, like literally this afternoon or this morning. I was like, oh, hey, as I was looking at all the events, this would be really good for my boy out in New York. So I sent him you guys' demo day that you guys are having for VCs, because he's looking for some LPs right now. So literally it's the exact same thing of, like, it's not necessarily flexing that relationship. It's literally just like, hey, I see where A and B could match up. Exactly. And I'm going to put you guys together where it makes sense, because I'm not going to risk my network. I'm not going to risk my sense of self, or my position or standing. But also, I want to make sure that I see both of us win, right? I want to make sure that I see you get to that next level.
Yeah, that's all it is, man. And I built my whole career thus far, all the relative success, on just relationships. And a lot of people can always say that you can feel when you're being genuine, and that goes for most people, excluding myself. It's just more like standard the way the world works. At least I feel like a lot of people can feel when it's genuinely genuine. And when you're making those introductions, saying I can call this person, I don't know if everybody's like this, but like, you and I know we are. There's a genuine level of internal excitement when I say I can introduce you to this other individual, and it has nothing to do with showing you that I know, he or she. It's the fact that might benefit you, and if I can do something to help you out in some way with nothing going back to myself or no ulterior motive or agenda, it just feels so good. And I like that. And that's a big reason why people always say, Mehron, would you go back to being a founder? And my answer is no. Right? You never know, that might change. But up until now, that answer is no. And the reason being, primary reason is, as a founder, my network is only so large. As a VC, it's 10x that, and it's multiplying every single day. So the best part about what I get to do and why I love this game so much is I always get to say, hey, speak with XYZ, talk to this person, talk to that person. And that might just go ahead and change things for that individual. And I was able to bring that together. So that, to me, is the most exciting thing. Money I always use just a byproduct. But with this approach, I found it helps in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%, man. Like, and what really amazed me, because we've talked about LPs and all of that stuff. Like, literally, before I even jumped into you guys' first event, when we first started talking and everything, like, every single one of my LP friends has already invested in you guys' fund. Like, it's kind of I was as I amass a lot of these really, really great connections, because it's like you said, it's not about us just sending people just to send people. I really want to give this person this beneficial relationship, because I've seen fruit from it, and I want them to see similar fruit in whatever area or sector that they're in. And I mean, that is what sets a lot of people apart, within this kind of in this space, is you can also tell when somebody's just trying to flex a relationship versus you and I I don't care about any of this stuff. This is my boy, this is my friend, or hey, I know this founder or this investor, or this Fortune 50 or Fortune 500 company, they need XYZ. They've told me they need this. Boom, it pops into my head. Hey, I know you need this. Let me send it over. Yep. That's pretty much the gist of the entire thing. I know what is it called? One of the people in the chat here said, wanting to see other people win, isn't really talked about enough, which is why I'm kind of spending a little bit more time on this, just jumping into other stuff, because
it's not, it's really not. No. Yeah. And I love that. It's not talked about enough. It's funny enough, I actually thought about this morning, a similar topic, where wanting to see other people win, I feel as though most people, I don't know if it's an age thing or what, but I actually don't even know if I should say this on a live thing. So I'm gonna hold my tongue overall, but I don't know if most people want to see others win, or maybe have you ever heard that thing where it's they want to see you win but not do better than them, right? It's something like that. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think my entire growing up my whole life, and what I feel so proud and so fortunate of is the people around me. We genuinely want each other to do well, very well. I want my friends to do better than me. And it's not a common trait, I think, with majority of individuals, but I feel so fortunate to just have wonderful individuals around me that I feel the sense that that's what they want, and we all want that for each other. And it's infectious. It's infectious. It helps out the most. And at that point, your networks aren't closed, your advice isn't closed, and you can help each other. My dream is doing the coolest thing. I've said it before, actually. There's probably some article that quotes me on it, where I don't believe in success if I can't share it with those around me. So I agree. Seeing others win is not talked about enough, but it's pretty beautiful when everyone buys in.
No, 100%. I mean, one of my favorite songs is "My Team" by Mac Miller. Simply because of that. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like this, like if the ability to have everybody else around you be elevated by the work you're doing, but also when you elevate them, then they're elevating you, and it's just a constant building process. But I think that's why when investors tell founders, and you correct me on this if you have a different opinion on it, but what I believe is why investors tell founders, like, hey, build out your founder network, right? Like the best introductions that I receive are like from other entrepreneurs, from other companies, whatever it is. It's because, okay, this person is going out of their way to really just see you like get to that next level. Like, and also like I can see that you're elevating each other, right? Because you're helping out a founder that's within my network or a founder that I love and support. I want to make sure that anybody that's loving and supporting them, that I'm doing the same, right? Like it's that process that I think a lot of people, because I know a lot of founders that skip that step, right? They're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I've literally talked to founders that are, even some of my friends are like, I don't know if anybody that's like hasn't reached Series B or like hasn't been with this company that hasn't been Fortune 500. And I'm like, bro, what are we talking about? Like my favorite relationships are the dudes that are like blue collar workers that are like grinding it out, and like some of the most intelligent individuals. Like I've had the best networking ideas actually from some of those guys, like for my company or my business, because those diverse perspectives, night and day difference, right? Like I'm constantly grabbing info.
I'd say, it's not a science, it's an art of where you spend your time. Don't spend all of your time with just people that are in what I like to call the ideation phase. So maybe not 100% of it, because then you're really just not going anywhere. But it's really important. And I think founder networks actually are always talked about at a very high level, but people don't actually go into depth of what founder networks really mean, because it can mean different things for different people. As a founder yourself, your founder network could be tapped into VCs that can go ahead and fund you. They can be tapped into angel investors. If their company fails, those angel investors might actually trust you and invest in your next project. From a VC's perspective, depending on how early you invest, I think you should have founder networks all over the place. It could be pre-seed to send to your pre-seed friends. It could be people as they're coming up. It could be, later on down the line to send to whoever, just to talk and bounce ideas off of each other. The deal flow, by the way, on the investor side that comes from founders, in my opinion, in my career thus far, has been second to none. The best deal flow that I get is actually from founders in my network. Second to that is probably the VCs in my network. You would think it's reversed, but a lot of time, the founders are just so tapped in. You have some of these rounds go so quickly too in the Valley, and they're just so hot, where you have a founder that, was in a hacker house with XYZ or did a hackathon, or this is their best friend. And they go, Mehron, talk to us. I can recall I've had multiple times where I'll get a phone call, say, Mehron, I want you to meet this person. It's like 10 p.m., 10:30, 11 p.m. I'm at some random, it could be a restaurant or, out somewhere at some lounge, meeting some founder whose round hasn't even opened yet. But the moment it does, it's probably going to close in, 3-4 weeks. And that's come through founder network. So that's just pretty incredible. And I think people are more than willing to help each other out. I think people are more willing to help each other out than other people realize. So the more you tap into founder networks, it's pretty cool. It's not to take our whole time on it, but I think that could be a whole conversation in and of itself.
No, 100% could. Even and I think just a quick thing before we jump into some of the other parts of this, but like really fast talking about founder networks. there are good founder networks and there are bad founder networks. Like you briefly kind of tapped on the fact that some people are just always in that idea phase, right? Like you want to make sure that people are like constantly elevating or whatever it is. And an experienced founder or a founder that's gaining the experience will be able to tell that. I mean, I fell into that mode, and this is my third company. I fell into that for a little bit where there's probably about like a 3 or 4 month period where I realized most of the people that I was chatting with or I was around, we were all just kind of treading water together at the same time. Nobody was actually doing much other than like, we thought we were doing real work. It was busy work, right? It wasn't any actual real tangible traction. We were getting validation and all this other stuff, but it was the same information that we were getting back, right? And so I was like, okay, how do we get out of this? And I mean, I talked to other founders that and investors. I just talked to people that were like late stage. I talked to like some series like B and later investors, and I was like, hey man, like I know you've had founders that have been like kind of in this mode or this mindset, like have you seen them get out of this, right? And they're like, oh well, this is some of the things that my founders have done, or some of them even were just like, hey, you know what? I've got a really good founder that we invested in. Let me get you on a call with him really quick. And like, just like 5 to 15 minutes of his time, like just, ask him the right questions and see if he can give you the information. I mean, that helped out tremendously. I mean, those are things and conversations that nobody would know about unless like, it's not something that I bring up every day. It's probably the first time I've actually talked about it like out loud, honestly. So wow. It's good information for people to know of like how those things even work. Mm-hmm. And so, the biggest thing is how has this played like, regarding like empathy within your network or, the VC process, like how has that founder experience or these introductions that you've received and everything like elevated and helped you support the startups that are within your portfolio?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll expand it. So it's not just the founders that are within our portfolio. I think it's just founders I interact with, right? These founders, that's all they're working on. This startup is their baby. This startup is their passion. And if it's not their passion, at least what they're spending a lot of time, it's a grind. It's not easy. It's not just a normal 40-hour week type of a job. So they maybe are obsessing over what's going on and spending all their time and stress to the max. And me as the investor, I would argue being a founder is probably harder than being an investor. I think everyone knows that in terms of time. But yeah, they're both difficult. I can actually argue both sides. Whole other topic, I don't think founders get enough credit. I don't think VCs get enough credit of how difficult it can be. That's a whole other topic. And the amount of time it takes, that's something completely different. But what I'll say is on the empathy aspect, these founders spend all their time on this. If I come ahead and I look into a pitch and I don't love it, I'm not just going to go ahead and cold say, this is terrible. Why are you bringing this in front of me? That might be the first time I'm seeing it. Or if I'm in diligence, I might be on that company for maybe a few hours, diving into their documents, their financials or more. My feedback that I'm going to come back with and my questions are not going to be combative. They're going to be, a bit more uplifting, a bit more encouraging, constructive, of course, but not in a way that puts the individual down. It's more so just diving better into the company or giving feedback on how to elevate this. A lot of times, if I am passing on a company, I'll try to give the reason why and, let that founder know indirectly or directly that it's not a personal thing or this was terrible. It doesn't fit within our mandate. And if it did fit within our mandate, I'll try to explain, why we're passing from this. But when I'm mentoring or when I'm just talking to founders in general, either in our portfolio or, I'm a mentor at Alchemist and Techstars as well, it's being constructive without putting it in a way that just, excuse my language, just shitting on them. And I think that helps a bunch. And there's ways to be helpful. And I know I'm rambling on this and I'm mincing words, but there's ways to be helpful without being hurtful, if that makes sense. And I think that's important. Sometimes you got to be more stern and more harsh, but that's something that I think I took from my founder journey onto the investor side.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge piece. I mean, even like on the accelerator side for what I do, it's extremely fine it's an extremely fine line when you're actually kind of having those conversations with entrepreneurs in general, right? Because you don't want to necessarily hurt somebody's feelings or really go out of your way to like start an argument or whatever it is, but you want to make sure that at the end of the day, it's all love and it's all really useful feedback. Granted, everybody should grain of salt everything. Like I've had conversations where I've talked with very, very seasoned entrepreneurs for like over an hour, right? I was only able to get maybe one nugget of information that was actually useful, but that nugget was extremely valuable, right? And so it's like, okay, how do I grain of salt this from all the advice, all the other things, and like, what can I apply now? What's relevant to what I'm doing, and not like using it as like a chip on your shoulder or whatever else it is. And I mean, even with what you were saying, I think putting our investor hats on, I think we've already had them on this whole time, but like, what you really look for when you're actually looking at founders. So like, what are the top 3 things you would say that you look for in a founder when you're considering an investment?
That's good. One thing I'll say is actually to go finish off that last question, the GP, the main partner at our fund right now, gave me some advice a long time ago that stuck. And he said, in life, you can be soft on the person and hard on the problem, which I think is pretty good. A lot of times, if you are, let's say, in an argument where you're trying to give some really bad, trying to get some feedback to something that really is just annoying, you're getting on your nerves, it's important to just keep that in mind. So soft on the person, hard on the problem, and I can dive into that as well. To answer your question now, 3 things that we look for. Number 1, I'd say, is actually passion. I brought it up a few times on this call. I think a lot of founders start things to make money. I mean, that's a way to do it, right? I'll be honest, and I'll say it. My last company did well. I wasn't passionate about it. Mm-hmm. I think I had more luck in that story, but I didn't need to go, raise a bunch of venture funding, and I didn't need to go through the rounds. It didn't take me 10 years. So there's luck involved in that story. But what I'm seeing now with a lot of founders, especially because of the lack of defensibility in today's world, you have to have a competitive edge. Your competitive edge is going to be speed, stickiness of your products, the velocity that you're moving at. I think passion and almost like borderline obsession is pretty good, because that founder is going to stick around when the times are tough. If it's just there to make money, it's so easy to start a company these days. That's why I mentioned the no defensibility today, and the barrier to entry is lower than ever. If things aren't working, they likely will pivot once. That's it, maximum. Oh, that didn't work either. Cool, I'm shutting down the company. I can go start my next new thing. Someone who has a great why and is passionate about why they're building for that problem or that solution will stick around when times are tough. So that's pretty good. The other one I'd say is a clear roadmap, a game plan. That will change. It's never, your first idea is never gonna, your first game plan is never gonna execute the way you want it to. But having at least a thought process, we're going to do this, and then we're gonna look to do this and this and this and this. That I found to be a great quality with a lot of the founders we work with that have done relatively well up until this point. So I can really admire that, knowing that it's going to change, but having a plan instead of saying, oh, we're going to try this and maybe 4 other things at the same time and see what sticks. The next thing I'd say, the third piece, is staying lean. Actually, you know what? Let's change that. Being transparent. Let me change this to being transparent. Being transparent with your investors. Some founders, I think, are just cagey. I see this more with first-time founders than I do second-time founders. Whereas the investor, you're trying to get all this information out. And you think to yourself, if I'm forcing to get information out and you haven't even received the cash yet, once you receive the investment or the cash, you may not even answer our calls. So just being transparent, being upfront about the issues and the things that are going well, I think is a pretty important trait, because founders and VCs are really partners in this. Both of you will take time in the trenches for many years. So you should be as transparent as possible, and can also help you in the long run. I might know somebody that can help out with the specific issue. So I'd say those 3 are things that I try and look for in founders.
Yeah, I think a lot of founders don't realize how valuable that is, because a lot of people see, getting an investor on board as just a check, right? But really, like, you have an entire pool of advisors essentially that are able to really like mentor you and really shape the company in the way that it needs to be shaped. And I mean, if you don't see your investors as having that ability to further your cause, or really if they don't have the willingness to open up their network or their opportunities to you, then it's not the right investor for you. And I think a lot of people kind of underutilize. Honestly, I think most founders underutilize that. I think that's one of the most underutilized assets for founders. And I think a lot of the things is like just reaching out and being transparent. Like, I'm going to be honest with a lot of people. I don't think that there are enough program directors for a lot of these like accelerators or funds or whatever it is. As the fund grows, I don't think that a lot of these funds have the staff to be able to just reach out to you 24/7 and try to get your updates. Like, they shouldn't have to hound you to get the information of what you need. You should know exactly what you need, but you should also be able to provide that information so they can help you out. And also like just even knowing where those holes are, and they might not be able to help you, but they might know somebody else that can.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what is it called in terms of kind of the next thing? So we've talked about some of the things you really look for, but like what in regard to red flags, what are some of the biggest red flags that you kind of see with founders that instantly kind of give you pause? And I know we've kind of highlighted a little bit of that within the last response, but if there are anything specific where it's just like, no, just immediate pass.
Yeah, I've already talked about being cagey with some information. I think where that comes most is, when we talk about cash in the bank or runway, sometimes founders aren't as transparent with that one. That could be a red flag. I remember vividly, I passed on a deal somewhat recently that we were likely going to write a check into because we asked to see those metrics in real time, only because we've been burned in the past. And I know a lot of VC friends of mine that have been burned in the past in a similar way, and they just weren't willing to share that information to actually validate and prove what the runway is, what it says, what they say it is. So that's a big red flag there. Next things I would talk about are, just regarding market size. I think sometimes it's not a red flag, but I think the addressable market sometimes is too optimistic, and it can just kind of say, hey, let's proceed with caution here, that you're not really going to capture that size of the market within 1 year. You're not going to capture that size of the market within 2 years. And maybe the founder just doesn't understand that as best they say they could. The third one I'd say is probably pipeline. Pipeline, I think, can be overly optimized at times. And, if we do reference checks, or if, we know the CEO of that Fortune company that you're looking to sign and you're saying that's a done deal, I might call him. And we just talked to him one time at a coffee shop, then that can come off as pretty poor, more from an execution standpoint. I think startups today, more than anything, we talked about traits that we see in founders, passion being one of those traits, obsession, but the reality is it comes with execution. That's really what gets startups going. Even hence, my startup that did well, or a lot of them that do well, execution is what it goes down to. Passion and your why will continue, having you work on it when times are tough. So that's a trait. But in terms of an ability, that's execution. And a lot of these startups, we try to figure out how can they really execute and if they understand what their game plan is.
Yeah. And I know some folks in the chat were talking about like underrepresented founders and passion being a lot, but not actually like, figuring out ways to kind of break down some of those barriers for like underrepresented individuals, which I agree with. I think there's a lot of ways, and I think that's a separate thing that we can definitely dive into. I know we've only got a limited amount of time left for this one. That's a lot more of a broader topic, but that is something that we're going to be talking about in September. That'll be one of the questions that we have, because you're going to be one of the panelists that we're going to have for the State of Venture session that we'll be doing in September.
Yeah, excited.
But outside from that one, definitely want to try to dive in. So we've only got probably about 15, 16 minutes left here. So want to see about getting through some of these in kind of a quicker fashion. And then we'll do like a 5-minute kind of lightning round towards the end of everything with some quick questions that I've got prepared for you. But let's see, when it comes down to, I really, really love this question. So I'm going to have to ask it, if you had to only bet on one of these, so team, timing, or market, what would be your best bet and why?
Team. No question. It's a fantastic question, actually. I would say team through and through. It's a pretty cliche answer. You talk to every investor and you say, what's like the very first thing you look at? They're always going to say team, especially the earlier stage investors. The reason why is because timing and market, although exceptionally important, kind of go back to one of the points I mentioned earlier, where that when the market's doing well and the timing is doing great, everyone's kind of doing well. But naturally, markets are cyclical, so things will go south. And that team is really what you want to bet on. The example that I'll give here is growing up, the hardest worker I've ever seen is my dad. He runs his own business, and he continues to this day. He's probably one of the hardest working individuals that I know. And I've just seen how creative he's been when things go tough, when the market goes bad or the timing is terrible or something's happening within his industry or his space or even his own company. And just seeing that and how he navigates when other incumbents or competitors have died in that span of time, I think is really, really, really important. So no matter what, you should back the team. And that goes down to the execution. That goes down to everything that we talked about. If we want to talk about timing and you're a startup, I just don't know if that's the greatest. I'd actually want to speak with the person that says timing is the right answer for a startup, because if you're looking at a 10-year, I think today's world is a little bit different. You can build startups much faster. They can reach $1 million of ARR faster than ever before, and they can exit, within just a few years, maybe get rolled up by some PE firm and bought out. But naturally, this thing will take many years, and that's going to be cyclical. We actually see a lot of funding happen for startups just because they're hot, and then a few years later, they're not that hot anymore. Right? So I would say team is everything.
No, 100%, like 1,000% on that one, man. Like the amount of people that kind of just look at market first. I mean, granted, market is a really big thing, right? And I think it also comes down to like how everybody's viewing the market, whether it's like top down or bottom up. And there's a lot of different ways we can view that. But the amount of companies that we've seen win over the years, their market has drastically changed.
Right.
Google's initial market is completely different than before. One of my favorite ones, Notion, actually. I mean, they were building a completely different software when they initially started out that is now, basically how they're operating. I think even Lovable had their initial thoughts on who they probably thought was going to, buy their software, utilize everything.
Right.
Like nobody, I think, anticipated how much money all of these applications were going to get within for like all these vibe coding apps. Like, what is it? One of them reached like 100 million in ARR within 8 months.
That's Lovable.
Ridiculous. Yeah. What are we like? I don't think that was the initial game plan. Like, it just happened that way.
No, when I saw, Cursor did it recently, and they did it within 12 months, and they were the fastest company to reach $100 million of ARR within 12 months. And, it's like that didn't even settle yet. And Lovable comes around and saying, hey, we just did it in 8. Right? Just unbelievable what's happening in today's world. So it's all the respect to them, but those are the exceptions, not the norm.
Yeah, and I mean, even I think the markets are constantly changing because of AI as well. Just the amount of things we're seeing, even with I was talking with some people about the Middle East recently, and just them kind of talking about how they're investing a lot more in infrastructure as well for like artificial intelligence. Like, if that would have been on somebody's bingo card 10 years ago, they would not have won, right? But like thinking about it now, it's the thing that's hot in the market. But is it going to be hot in the next 5 years? I would love to say yes, but honestly, we have no idea. So I think it's like really backing that team or figuring out like, okay, are these the right people to build this? And, if this isn't the right problem, or if they're not looking at the problem the same way, like find that additional market that this could fit into.
Right.
No, 100%. And then, so let's go ahead and jump into this this lightning round. I know I have a lot more questions, but we'll always be able to bring you back on or chat more about some of these other things. So basically, I'm going to hit you with 5 really quick questions in regard to just a couple of different various topics around entrepreneurship, books, all of that stuff. And I just want to get your quick answers here. And then I'm just preparing something right here. Show it up on the screen for the lightning round. All right.
So good.
Let's go. So so what's one book every entrepreneur should read?
The One Thing by Gary Keller. It has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. It has to do with focus.
Okay. Perfect.
I don't know how fast you want this lightning round to be.
Yeah, we could spend a little bit of extra time on that one. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do like a minute for each.
I like that book because I think it's the first or the second page of it. It's only 2 lines, right? And it says verbatim, I think it goes, if you chase 2 rabbits at once, you won't catch either of them. I think that's what it says. But the whole book talks about the action of multitasking and how it's really just a myth. Theoretically, you can text and drive at the same time, but you can't do them as well as you would have independently, right? While you're doing it simultaneously. And that I think is pretty good. As a founder, it's hard to conceptualize because you're working on so many things at once, but I think it's pretty good to just try to focus. Like if you're blocking 30 minutes for this one thing, block 30 minutes for that one thing is all I'm trying to say. So focus is a pretty big piece.
No, 100%. There's actually a show, Mind Games. I think it was called, or Brain Games. In the first 3 episodes, they actually did a study on like multitasking and how you can like focus and everything. Really odd side tangent, but like it's something that popped into my head that I learned like years ago. I'm big into like psychology and all of that stuff. So, what is it called? Next question. Favorite failure that turned into a blessing?
I couldn't break into venture in the beginning. My family has no investments. They know nothing about finance. They didn't know anybody in finance. Like when I know I wanted to get into finance, I thought I figured it out. Then I realized finance itself is so broad, right? You FP&A, M&A, there's 1,000 different things within it. And then I said, okay, I want to go to the investments world. And that in and of itself is a whole other beast. And my parents didn't know anybody. It's not even like a financial analyst that I can speak with. They actually told me not to do it. They always cautioned me against going into the investments. They viewed it as too high risk. They just didn't understand it at all. And but I went on my path, and as I came here to the Valley, I went to every event I possibly could, and I met a bunch of people. And when I was trying to break into venture, no one was giving me a chance. They're, you're a good guy, but you don't have the experience. You don't have this, or the pedigree, or this or that. So that was a failure for a lot of times, and I wanted to quit. That was actually a lot of the reasons why I started Qualtic. I started Qualtic with, I had no idea how that was going to go. I didn't know how I was going to raise the cash or nothing. And all that came from running around. So that became no one giving me an opportunity in the beginning. And I remember I had people laughing in my face. I've had people cancel meetings. I have people no show on me when they thought I thought they were going to come. People that wouldn't give me the time of day at events. Now none of that stuff really happens. But those were the greatest times that inspired me to start all the other things. And I'm still building to this day. So those failures of not actually breaking in for a long period of time when I was really trying, ended up becoming the biggest blessings.
Perfect, man. Well said. Well said. So next one, cold email you responded to that changed your trajectory.
I don't think I'm at a point in my career yet where one of those has really materialized. I think I'm just too early to give a true answer, to be completely honest. Hopefully some of them will. I respond to cold emails best I can. We're still early.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't received one yet. Like, I think we're both pretty early on in our careers, but always got to ask, man. You never know. And then next one, one founder trait that instantly catches your attention.
Charisma. I'll say charisma as a trait, not as an ability. The reason being is because a lot of fundraising is just a game. And when I go back to startups needing to survive and needing to raise their next rounds, I see more founders that are personable and that can connect, have an easier time raising with maybe a subpar product than some of their competitors. So when you see that and when you feel that, a thought as an investor, forget about liking the individual. It could just be they have the ability to probably survive and raise again. So it's a trait that I think goes pretty well.
Perfect. And then last question in the lightning round, and then we'll go into the final reflections for everything, is most exciting technology trend that you're watching right now.
Oh, I actually really love agentic AI, which is it's kind of like a cop-out answer, to be completely honest. That's what everybody is talking about. But I'll put it this way, from the VC end, solo GPs are becoming more norm in today's world. And it's because of the technologies that we have today that are allowing us to do that. OpenAI recently released GPT agent, and it just helps so much with everyday tasks, workflows, and whatnot. I like that trend. I like the way things are going. We were one of the early investors in Superhuman. Superhuman recently got acquired by Grammarly. Superhuman's whole thing, for those that don't know, is making you much faster and much more efficient with email, and Grammarly's jumping into that space as well, which is helping these tasks within your workflow. So I really like that. I'm excited to see how things go. And me, along with some people that I'm friends with here in the Valley that are VCs, think there might be a day where we just wake up and all our emails are taken care of. Maybe the important ones are flagged for us, but the rest, like, it knows our voice, and tech is being built for that today, where it knows our voice, knows our style, responds to most messages, tasks are done, flights are booked, and you're kind of just running things solo. So that to me is really exciting, but I'm curious to see how it goes.
No, that's like, I mean, hell, I don't know if you remember like how or when we first met and we were talking about everything. We spent an hour literally just talking about AI, and that's when we became boys. Like right after that, we did Daryl Frater's office hours. Shout out to Daryl. He does those every Friday. He's actually got another good friend of mine, Mike Ma. He's coming on this week. If anybody wants to check that out, don't have the time to toss the thing in for that, but for the link. But definitely look up Daryl Frater. He hosts those on Twitter. But you were talking about the fund and everything. I think I did like a quick 1 minute pitch to you or whatever it was, and we were just like, all right, like, yeah, you seem like a cool dude. Let's chat after this.
Yeah, no, that's always.
Yeah, I called you on your cell phone, and we're talking for like literally just an hour about like what is it called? It's like AI native versus what is it, AI enabled? Like literally the exact same thing we were talking about. So good to know that's still on the radar. Like a year and a half later, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And by the way, things like that are my favorite. I remember you and I didn't even know each other that well, and I was out with some friends, and you called me up, and you had some question and some issue happening with what you're starting up. This is a year ago, and I left everybody, and I'm talking to you for 45 minutes. I love things like that. Again, I feel like why people call me for advice, I don't know. It's if things don't go well and the advice doesn't work, it wasn't me. You heard it from somebody else. But I feel so great, to be in these conversations with individuals like yourself and so many intelligent people that if I can help, then I'm always going to be there to do it. So if I have the time for that phone call, I'm not in a meeting or whatever, even if we barely know each other, almost every time I'll take it. And it's a pleasure. It really is.
No, dude, I was surprised as hell at that because I was just like, hey, I have a really quick question. I texted you and like 5 other people really quick. I'm like, I feel like Mehron would have a really good answer to this. You're like, all right, dude, like I'm out right now, but I was like, all right, like no problem. I just need a text back. It's like, you just called me out of nowhere. And I'm like, all right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you were at like a party or like a friend's like thing or whatever.
Yeah, you're having like a housewarming thing at their building. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, no, that was great, man. But no, thank you again for that. Like, I've been a major help so far, and like, can't wait to, keep talking to you about just life, startups, all the different things, man. But you've been a great friend and confidant over the last year and a half that I've known you, and we're gonna be friends for a long time. But going into, because I know we've got only like a little bit of time left, we might go a little bit over. But for your time, just in case I can get the update at the end.
I actually have I have a meeting in a minute and a half.
Yeah, so really quick, one last thing. What's one thing that you wish every business leader knew about, but they don't?
My answer, I think, again, is going to be a cop-out cliche to this one, so no one might see value in this. But reputation is everything. I just really can't stress that enough. No. I'm nothing in my career if it's not for how others, how I show up for others, and how they show up for me in turn. That helps so much, and that'll help you years down the line. There are people to this day. But actually, I got a message this morning from an individual that I spoke with 2 years ago. Right, I helped out with one thing. He's probably helped me out more than him, but the reputation is so strong where he just made a really good referral for something. Business owners, when things go south, some people I think are too transactional, where they only want to speak with individuals that can help them out in that time. But as you do that, you end up burning some bridges. People might view you as like, oh, they didn't want to talk to me anyways, or they're only talking to me because I can do X, Y, Z for them. And that comes around, 4 or 5 years into the line, when you're going after bigger deals, bigger clients, or you're starting a new thing, that comes around. So just being kind to everybody, I think, is important, and everyone knows that. Kind and respectful is probably the better way to say it. And it's the most important thing, I think, for anyone's career, aside from how much you make financially, or who's who, or what, where they're from. just being respectful. You never know who's going to become who, or who knows who, or how you make people feel is the most important thing. So that's really the biggest thing. No matter what line of business you're in, if you're in startups, you run a traditional business, you run a flower shop, for God's sakes, that's just the biggest thing that I can say for anything.
No, thank you, man. You've been like a real pleasure to have on for the Tales from the Pantheon series. Really appreciate you, man. We'll chop it up after this. I'll let you head to your next meeting. I'll give some updates for you because I know you have a couple of things that I wanted to share with everybody and how they can connect with you, some of the events you guys have coming up. And so I'll share that within like the last 3 to 5 minutes on here.
Awesome. You're amazing. Thanks so much for your time. Sorry I got to bounce right now, but this was so much fun and always good to see you, brother.
Yeah, always good to see you, man. Thank you again for jumping on.
Of course. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. And so thank you again, Mehron, for jumping on. I'll give some quick updates for him on his behalf for both 7BC as well as for Founding Titans. And so for 7BC, they've actually got a lot of events for like investors, venture capitalists. So one of the events that they have coming up in a couple of different cities, including New York, San Francisco, Austin, is demo days for venture capitalists. So if you're looking for LPs or anything like that, or if you are an LP, PE, family office, all those different things, definitely head over to their link here that I'm showing in the chat for 7BC events. In regard to 7BC in general, this is their website for anybody that's interested for their fund of funds or any of the other options that they have. I want to make sure that you guys have this link available as well. And all this stuff will be put inside of the chat and the transcript. I don't know if Brandy's posting that in there. If not, then we'll put that inside of the chat later on for you guys and also in the comments section. In regard to connecting with Mehron, so here's his LinkedIn link. If you guys would like to connect with him after this, definitely shoot him a LinkedIn request. And he's literally one of my favorite people in general, and not just in this entrepreneurship space, but a huge wealth of knowledge and really great friend. Always love supporting him and everything that he does. And so definitely, if you guys want to connect with him, give you guys the ability there. In terms of what we're doing, so Founding Titans, again, for everybody that might not be privy, we are a community-focused relationship optimization platform, and we're building this to be able to help entrepreneurs and communities to 10x their network size and engagement. The biggest thing that we're working on is an AI recommendation system that'll be able to tell you the right people, businesses, communities, events, resources, and deals specifically tailored for you. And not just like who to engage with, but like how, why, and the real data and strong statistics behind that, and sharing that directly with our users. And community management, event management, a couple of different things, which kind of pulls into what our next session is going to be. So we have a global demo on August 5th, I believe, basically showing off the platform for everybody. So definitely head over to our Luma page to be able to book some time for that. And then we also do some connections. We have an early version of our AI matchmaking system that we're doing for our global networking calls, as well as for some of these sessions. So if you see any connections coming into your inbox and you opted into that, that's coming directly from some of the early AI models that we're working on and machine learning models. And so just wanted to give that for context for anybody that's looking there. For events in general, so for Founding Titans, we are going to be running events every Tuesday and Thursday going forward. If not our events, we also have events that we promote for other communities that we're working with or are very close with in organizations. So it's not one of our events on a Tuesday or Thursday. It might be somebody else's. But essentially, we've got over 30 panels that we're going to be running for the rest of this year that we already have or are booking people for, all the way from like venture capital to community building, to like SMB, industry specific things like artificial intelligence or CPG. We've got a lot of different things that we are tailoring content wise for you guys, as well as we've got a lot of amazing people that have confirmed with me for some upcoming sessions just like this for entrepreneurs, investors, community builders, all of those different things for you guys. So really excited. So definitely go to our Luma calendar, subscribe there. In terms of what else we're working on, there's a lot of other things in the mix that we have planned out this year. Another big thing is an in-person event we're doing in September for basically kicking off fundraising season. For those of you guys that don't know, for startups, fundraising season is September through basically November. So Labor Day through Thanksgiving is really the peak time to raise capital for the end of this year before the holidays kick in and everybody's just kind of a little bit more checked out. And so we're hosting an event in Austin for basically just kicking that off with founders, investors, ecosystem builders. So definitely find that on our calendar as well. And then Mehron, we're bringing him back for another session within that same week, I believe, regarding global investments. And so we already have that event page up as well. So if anybody wants to subscribe or basically jump in for that, we're going to have him and a couple of other like GPs and partners and stuff like that, basically talking about the current investment landscape. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. Definitely make sure that you go onto our calendar and onto our platform or like pre-order if everything that we've said or everything that we've shown you guys has looked good. And thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.